4th. Got a beautiful day ahead of us today here in Florida. Mark looks like he's getting prepared for a wonderful day in the stock market. Mark, what do you got for us today, buddy?
What do I have? Well, let me just take a look at the headlines here. Sorry, my coughing. Um, what was that little sound I just heard?
That was my phone go off.
All right. Oh, look at this. Hunter Biden put then VP dad on phone with business associates at least 24 times.
Dude, it's coming unraveled so
Jeez.
fast. It's not even funny. This is so over. It's just a laughable matter now.
Well, from a business point of view, let's start thinking about when Biden resigns, what's going to happen. So the market doesn't like uncertainty. So there will probably be some volatility short term. So he resigns, Kamala becomes president, then she appoints whoever Obama tells her to be vice president, and whoever that person is the person who'll really be running the country. But I got to tell you, man. Good morning, Sean. I got to tell you, like I was having a talk, let's just say, with this guy who's a Biden supporter this weekend, and I just don't understand how these people can just live this like life of fantasy. Like the new mantra is now, all right, well, Hunter got all this money, but it's never been tied to Joe.
So that
Okay.
makes it
So,
right.
so they're giving Hunter Biden tens of millions of dollars just out of the goodness of their heart. They don't expect anything in return.
What I don't understand from most people now, Mark, is that they have this ability to look away from the actual right. There's a right and a wrong to everything. I don't care how you paint it in the middle. There's a right and a wrong to it. And people are always trying to find ways to marginalize how you look at the right side of what something is instead of how all the different ways that you can do something wrong. Well, he didn't do it that bad. I mean, he stole a bunch of money, but he really didn't do it the way that most people steal money, or somebody else would have done it that we don't like. I mean, it's all part of just trying to keep us separated. It's like this crap with Kamala Harris this weekend about the social studies program in Florida. She comes to Jacksonville and says that, I mean, it was just some stupid statement about Black History Month and the way that the social studies programs in Florida are done. And we have one of the most comprehensive, wonderful Black history programs in this country that's taught in the public schools. It always has been. It's always been excellent. I mean, dude, I don't know. Look,
Well, I don't see why they can't just teach history. Why does it have to be Black history?
well, right. I mean, you'd have to give a month to everybody. I don't think there's that many races. I mean, honestly, I think it's because of the whole slavery thing that they have Black History Month. But listen, there's been so many great Black history. I mean, Black people in history, dude. I mean, I don't know. I've never in my life understood the reason why we can't see each other as what we are, which is human beings. And it's
Well, because it's an industry.
yeah,
Like, look at this guy. Look at this guy, Benjamin Crump, right? Who's the attorney for all these whenever something goes down. This guy hasn't won a case in years. Why does he still keep getting all these? It's like, why do they keep picking the guy that lost?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, really, and I don't know. It's just very frustrating. It's very frustrating. They should just be teaching history. And now they're talking about reparations. Well, all right. Well, how about this? Did you know there were free blacks who owned slaves? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
do their descendants are they paying money or are they getting money? Yeah, in Louisiana there was about 200 free blacks that owned slaves. Um, yeah, what about them? But how many people would even know that?
Well, see,
Like if you went up to like Michelle Obama found out that after her relatives got freed, they actually stayed on the plantation. They didn't leave. Like if you went up to Michelle Obama and said, "Hey, did you know that there were free blacks who owned slaves back in the 1800s?" She would probably be like, "What are you talking about?" But anyway, so going back to this idiot I was talking to this
oh
weekend
sorry.
about, sorry, this person I was talking about this weekend, he was saying, oh, inflation, the war in Ukraine caused the inflation. And it's like, dude, here's where Biden gets elected. Okay. This is November of 20. Oil is at $36 a barrel. Here's where the war in Ukraine breaks out. Oil is at $100 a barrel. This to here was before the war. So it's not that the war caused inflation, it's that inflation caused the
It
war.
was the policy shifts.
Oh, Craig Johnson. Hey, man, I remember you. We've met before, a long time ago.
It was the immediate lockdown of the policy to shift the energy policy from the what we use now with natural gas and petroleum to green energy, and that's what caused this whole entire inflation surge. And everybody knows it.
Craig, were you? I'm trying to think of what firm you were at. Was it Piper Jaffray? I can't, when I was at Thompson Horseman and Bryant, I think we used to talk. Anyway, yes. So let's talk about the markets. I think that we are going lower, and I will tell you why. All of a sudden, we got some very very bullish sentiment stuff going on here. Wait, what am I looking at here? I personally don't like CNN, but I look at this fear and greed index here every now and then, which I think is a little outdated. But anyway, it is showing extreme greed. Okay. So fear and greed index, extreme greed. Then they got these various things that they use. Some of these things I think might be a little bit out of date, but sentiment is kind of a funny thing. It's there's really no 100% right way to look at sentiment because it always kind of changes a little bit. All right, so we got that. Then we have the Association of American. Right, man, having a little rough time getting started this morning. The AAII Investor Sentiment Survey. Now, this has skyrocketed all the way up to 51%. So this, what do you want to call it? I guess association, American Association of Individual Investors. They poll their members. Are you bullish, neutral, or bearish? Now, as you can see, we're at a 1-year high for bullish. And I know just from experience that 51 is very, very high. Now, why is a very large amount of bullishness actually bad for the market? Well, think about this, right? For the market to go up, we need buyers because they're the ones who push the prices higher. If you have a large group of investors who are bullish, or if the vast majority of investors are bullish, what do? They invest their funds. And then the market effectively runs out of buyers, and the only way it can go is down. So when we have excessive greed or excessive bullishness, it's actually bad for the market. So when I saw these things last week, that kind of made me start to think, all right, I think we're at a top here. Remember, we look at levels, trends, momentum, and psychology, and this is the psychology. So we went from 41% up to 51%. So I don't know what happened in this week that all of a sudden people got to be really bullish. And if we went back to the beginning of June, which you can't see here, this was down in the 30s, like the low 30s. So we went from like 31 to 45 to 51. So I don't know what's going on out there. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't know why all of a sudden people are so bullish. But anyway, let's look at Allison Camerata in the news. She's my friend's neighbor up in Westport there. All right, now let's look at what we really need to watch here. Now remember, the S&P is 11 different sectors. All right, and it seems to me like we have somewhat of a flight to safety going on here, and that's another reason why I would say I'm right now short-term bearish. So I guess we'll just start by looking at the S&P ETF, SPY. And this is an ETF that tracks the market, tracks the S&P 500. You can't really trade the S&P 500 directly unless you're a futures trader or whatever. But this is, for all intents and purposes, this is plenty. So we're pretty flat in the pre-market. You see we got a little bit overbought here. I'm going to actually take this Bollinger Band off, though. Now, this is what we really need to concentrate on here is we got our tech sector really just kind of hanging out. So we're up a little bit this morning, but see this 177 level? This is what we got to watch. Now, this was resistance way back here in December of 21. So this is the peak. And, surprisingly enough, well, I guess it's not surprising because the media does such a really kind of a lousy job when they talk about the markets. The tech sector is basically trading at an all-time high. This is all time, So I don't know why they're not talking about it. Maybe because the Nasdaq's not at an all-time high, but this is the technology sector. There's 11 sectors of the S&P 500. And different ones are in the driver's seat at different times, I like to say. So we had resistance back here, then we get up here and we got resistance again. This was in June. How is it that we could get resistance at a level that was resistance before? This has to do with buyer's remorse. There's people who bought back here who, once the price goes lower, they're like, ah, damn, man, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have bought. And they tell themselves, if I get out of this thing at break even, I'm going to. So here we are a year and a half later. We get back up there. We got these remorseful buyers placing their sell orders. So this level became resistance again. So levels that were resistance can stay resistance for a while based on psychology. That's this buyer's remorse. Now, what do we have here? Why would resistance turn into support? This is because of seller's remorse. There's people who sold here who regret doing so when the price goes higher, and they tell themselves they're going to buy their shares back if they can at the same price they sold them at. So if you have enough remorseful sellers placing buy orders, the level that was resistance can convert it into support. And you can see that happened. That's happened a few times here over the past year with the tech sector. Resistance here became support here. Resistance here became support here. Resistance here, support there. Resistance here, support there. So now is the question is will this resistance turn into support? And for the past couple of days it has, but now my guess is with the sentiment that bullish, that this is going to break and this is going to start to head lower. And that's going to put pressure on the broader market. Also, this is a really instructful chart. You can see here we have another phenomena of buyer's remorse, and that turns support into resistance. So resistance can remain resistance because of buyer's remorse, and support could turn into resistance because of buyer's remorse. So we have people who bought here, the price goes lower. A lot of these people who bought tell themselves, man, I shouldn't have bought. I'm going to get out if I break even if I can. And when the price gets back up to their level, you got these remorseful buyers placing sellers. So support can become resistance because of buyer's remorse. Support can become resistance because of buyer's remorse. Then we have resistance can become support because of seller's remorse. So we got that, all right? And we also have the financial sector at a pretty critical level as well. Now, this is testing resistance, meaning it hasn't gotten above it yet. What are we doing? Pretty flat in the pre-market. But we got this level right here, 35.30, and look at where we stalled out. So this is our resistance was formed because it was support. There's people who bought back here, want to get out. You see this a lot in financial markets. It's just the way markets are, that some price levels just happen to be more important than others. And that's just the way markets work. Sometimes we know why a level is important, and sometimes we don't. I mean, look back here. It's a little out of date here, but this is what level is this here? 32.50 was support, became resistance, became support, became resistance. Anyway, if that support starts to give way in tech and this doesn't get through and starts to roll over, that's going to bring the broader markets down. Now, why would something get to resistance and sell off like it did here, for example? Well, when you got resistance is a group of people that want to sell, and they're watching this thing trend higher, and all of a sudden they notice, oh, it's not trending higher anymore. Now, if we're trending higher, it's because there's not enough supply or sellers to fill up all the demand or buy orders. So the buyers are forced to pay a premium to entice sellers to come into the market. When we get to a resistance level, all of a sudden there's enough supply to fill all the demand and then some. So some of the sellers start to look around and think, gee, the price isn't going higher anymore. That must mean there are new sellers coming into the market. And they start to get worried that they're going to miss out, because if there's a seller who's willing to sell at a lower price, that's who the buyers are going to go to. Buyers are going to go to who's ever willing to sell at the lowest price. If you're willing to sell at 35.30, but there's someone who's willing to sell at 35.20, well, guess what? That's who the buyers are going to go to. So you get this, they start to undercut each other. Someone's like, oh, you're 35.20. Well, I'm going to go to 35.10. And someone else is like, well, I'm going to go to 35, and so forth and so on. So the vast majority of moves in the market are not because of some kind of news story. Okay. They're not because of some kind of news story. They're because of psychology. What happened over the last, I don't know, month that made this sector go up by 10% in value? It's like, investor perceptions. That's pretty much it. Now, the other thing that's going on here is we're having what I think could be a flight to safety. And sometimes these flight to safeties happen right before the market starts to go lower. Now, what is a flight to safety? Well, in the institutional world, right, sometimes you have a contract that says you're not allowed to carry more than a certain amount of cash, like 5% cash or whatever. So a money manager might think the market's going to go down, but they don't have the option of going to cash. And maybe in their mandate, they don't have the ability to buy futures or options, so they can't hedge themselves with puts. So what do? They sell the stocks that they perceive to be risky and go into stocks that they perceive to be safe. What is perceived to be safe? Healthcare, consumer staples, utilities. All these three sectors are just skyrocketing. So let's look at yeah, I know Craig Johnson. I mean, I'm not well, but I'm just trying to think of the last time I spoke with him. I mean, we're talking years ago, but if you're still there, Craig, were you at Piper Jaffray? Is that where? All right. Anyway, healthcare is skyrocketing. All right. So this is healthcare. I mean, look at that. Of course, this is run into resistance too. Trading up a little, pretty flat this morning. This is our second biggest sector. So, but look at this. Look at this rip higher here. All right. I mean, that's a huge move for this sector. Now, this could roll over. And when we do have these flight to safeties, once the market really starts to fall apart, they start to go too. It's just been my experience that they kind of go last, right? The tech goes first and financials. But so this is healthcare really ripping, right? Now we have, oh boy, that's my Verizon. Verizon sucks, man. I've been behind on my bill for like 3 or 4 years because they only let me pay 1 month at a time. So I'm 2 months behind. And when I call, it's like you can only pay your current balance. Anyway, healthcare ripping higher. Could be a flight to safety. Utilities ripping higher as well. Look at that. I mean, this is utilities, man. This is not biotech. Look at that move here. That's huge. And then consumer staples also ripping higher. Yeah, look at that. And here's our ascending triangle pattern, which I don't pay attention to too many patterns, but I do pay attention to ascending and descending triangles, and they're easy to understand. Remember, every chart, we got to look at it through the context of what does it tell us about supply and demand. And here we have sellers are just kind of hanging out, and they form this resistance. Okay, this is around 74.80. So just look at it this way. You got the sellers are just like, yeah, whatever, dude. I'm hanging out. If the buyers come to me, I'll sell. If not, that's cool. I'll miss it. But as time is passing, the buyers are getting more anxious. And you can tell that because these lows are forming at higher levels. We have higher lows as time is going by. And that's the ascending part of the triangle. That's where the name comes from. So think about it. You got these complacent buyers you got complacent sellers and aggressive buyers. That sets the stage for the price to move higher. So ascending triangles tend to be a bullish thing. And sure enough, that's what happened, right? We had this big move up here after we got through the triangle, through the resistance. So, so think about it. We got excessively bullish sentiment. We got financials and healthcare, or financials and tech, each kind of teetering right on an important level. You got this massive moves into these so-called safe sectors. Let's see what consumer discretionary sector looks like. Yeah, now this has kind of failed at resistance here. And here's another example where we have our resistance at the same level that we had resistance at before. And this is a really good example here of how resistance can become support and support can become resistance. So broad markets, I am short-term bearish, and I usually am pretty neutral because I try to be agnostic, but I think that these moves into these safe sectors could be telling us something. Like right before the market sold off back in September of 20, we came out of COVID and we had this huge rally, but then we had a correction in September, and it was kind of a similar thing then where consumer staples just all of a sudden just caught on fire, and it was like the most overbought that had been in like 3 years. And within 2 weeks, we had like a 10% sell off. So speaking of overbought, well, we're not overbought by this on this indicator, but remember, this goes back 14 time periods. So if we count back 14 time periods, we're comparing where we are here to where we were there. We're not really factoring in this big move up higher there. This is why you got to learn these. Why I tell people with these sentiment, or not sentiment, but with these momentum indicators, I think you should just pick 2 or 3 or maybe 4 and get really good at them, because you want to understand the nuances. Now, I would contend that this is overbought, but you would look at this and say, well, gee, Mark, how could this be overbought? The blue line is below the red line. Well, this is measuring where we are now to where we were 14 time periods ago. So if we count back 14 time periods, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we're comparing here to here. It's not factoring in this little move in that happened in between then. If we were to go back, say, measure this 7 time periods, you're going to see that this is going to be really overbought. And it's okay to play with these default settings or to optimize them. See, if we go back 7, now this shows us that we're overbought. All right. So just because an indicator doesn't say something, it's not that it's a false signal. You just got to understand how the indicator is calculated, and you got to learn the nuances of it. But anyway, I think that this is telling us something here. Let's take a look at Apple and Microsoft, because those are the 2 biggest stocks. So the microcap. Yeah, so Apple kind of has stalled out here. Up a teeny bit in the pre-market. And Apple just made all-time highs. You don't really hear people talking about that either. I mean, I don't even know what the hell they're talking about on the media. I guess the Fed this week is probably what they're going to be going on and on about. And this narrative now that the Fed's going to stop raising rates, which I think is wrong, frankly. And look at that. Microsoft is kind of stalling out too. Again, we get to a level that was formerly resistance, and we run into resistance there again. All right, let's see. Let's go through a couple more of these sectors.
A lot of loans coming due on that commercial real estate as well.
Yes, Piper Sandler. Okay, I know I'm not crazy. Well, if you're still there, Craig, thanks for checking us out. All right, here's our communication services sector, and this is, you can see that this has reversed. So it came out of this little triangle pattern. Now, what's a triangle pattern? Well, a triangle pattern is really just a trading range. And what goes on in a trading range? Well, in a trading range, the forces of supply and demand are equal. They're in equilibrium. When a market's moving higher, it's out of equilibrium, right? There's not enough supply to fill all the demand. So the buyer's got to pay up. When we get to a trading range, all of a sudden, we're in equilibrium. So if something's out of equilibrium, what does it have to do before the equilibrium shifts? Well, it has to, at some point, equalize. So when we get a trend up or down, and then we get to a trading range, it shows that the supply and demand forces have become equalized. And that could be the first thing that's going to happen before we get a reversal. So it's not, these patterns are not these like magical, mysterious things. They're graphical illustrations of what's going on with supply and demand. So I'm going to get rid of this because we're out of the range. But anyway, so this looks like it's reversing. This sector is, you can see down here too, resist support was resistance. You just have to really know where these price levels are if you want to trade. I mean, if you don't know where your price levels are, it's like being in a town you've never been in before. You don't have a map or GPS. So it's like, how the hell are you going to get around? I'm going to just bring up Google. Yeah, that's a little bit of a reversal going on there. I mean, that's already reversed. All right. So anyway, that's my story with the markets. I think broad markets are headed lower. So what do we got here? We got the Fed. I guess if the Fed comes out and says, hey, we're not done raising rates, the market will take that as a catalyst to move lower. Because right now, I think we're primed to. What's this? Some Binance US crypto trading was a mirage. I still think that there's more to come in this whole crypto thing.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Regulators. Hey, you know what? I'm going to step off for about 10 seconds. I forgot to bring my water bottle down here with me. So Berlin, why don't you keep people entertained? And I'll be right back.
Well, good morning, folks. How are y'all today? I'm good. I don't really talk a whole lot about the stock market because I'm your retail side of this. I don't. We're basically keep Mark's business going, and just I'm kind of the pretty face, kind of keep everybody going along there. So, um, he's kind of hung me out here to dry, folks. I think that the commercial real estate is going to be the first problem to go. You have a lot of empty buildings probably everywhere that you live. You see empty buildings everywhere. Commercial real estate, they have to pay rents. We got Netflix. Disney's not looking good either. You're right. Which I'm completely against Disney all the way with the things that they've done with kids. Mark, thanks for saving me. Go ahead.
Let's see, Disney, the evil empire. Yeah, now their stock to me looks kind of weak. So we just looked at the ascending triangle. This is kind of a descending triangle where you got this well-defined support, but as time, so that means the buyers are hanging out down at support. They're like, all right, well, if the stock comes to me, I'm going to buy it. But if not, I don't care. I'm okay if I miss it. But as time is going by, the sellers are getting more aggressive. And you can tell that because we have these peaks are forming at lower levels than the prior peak. We call that lower highs. So just think about this now. You have chill buyers, but you have aggressive sellers. So that could set the stage for the price to go lower. So yeah, Disney's looking kind of weak. And look at this. We're pretty much right where we were during the COVID meltdown.
Steve's also
Yeah,
asking about Netflix as well.
let's see. Netflix.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, this looks to me like it's reversed and it's gonna go lower. That's what I would think. I mean, I guess when you're trading, you always got to assume the trend is going to remain intact until we get to some type of level where there's a good chance that we change. But this could be our classic false breakout here, right? And a lot of times when something looks like it's breaking out and it doesn't, and it reverses and it comes right back, we call that a false breakout. And they tend to be good contrary signals in and of themselves. So a resistance level is a large group of sellers. If we get above that and the price holds, what does it tell us? Well, it tells us that those sellers are out of the market. They finish their orders, or maybe they cancel their orders. Regardless, they're out of the market. So when you take sellers out of a market, it sets the stage for the price to move higher because it's your whole supply and demand thing, right? But sometimes you get this where it looks like it's going to break out and then it just reverses. And this could probably happen because of what we call buy stop orders. When you have a really clear level, a lot of traders think to themselves, all right, I'm interested in buying this, but I'm not going to buy it unless it gets above that resistance. I think if it gets above that resistance, it's going to keep going. So I'm not going to buy it until we get above our level. So the stock could be at 440 and you could say, all right, well, I'm going to buy it if it gets to 460. So it sounds a little counterintuitive because you would think like, why would I pay more than I could pay now? And the idea is, well, as long as it stays below this resistance, it's not going anywhere. But if it gets above it, then it's going to keep going. So a lot of times you get these buy stop orders get triggered and they push the price higher. But if there's no follow through from other types of trading or other types of investors, then we get this reversal. And we call that a false breakout. And false breakouts in and of themselves, my experience has been that they're good contrary signals. All right, let me see here.
We just have empty ones, Maddie. I mean, everywhere I drive in these towns that I've just, in this county that I've moved to, and this is a pretty affluent county, there's a lot of commercial real estate that's just not being used, and businesses that are on the way out. Everywhere there's a sign for sale saying, going out of business. Come get as much as you can get, whatever you can haul out. I mean, it's. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that could be trouble for these regional banks because a lot of them are invested in commercial real estate, and I think with no one wanting to go back to work in an office, then commercial real estate's not as valuable. So let's see what the bank industry has done. We looked at the financial sector, but the banks are an industry within. And all right, I mean, they've done pretty well. They've held up. This is a really important thing to watch here. But that being said, even though they've held up, I think we could be due for some profit taking here. But this is important to watch here. This is where we had the Silicon Valley collapsed, and then they were saying all this like, oh, they backstopped it and they bailed people out and this and that. But if you notice, the shares never really recovered. I mean, they're kind of recovering now, but we're still below where we were when the whole thing started. I mean, we're still about 10% below. But yeah, so commercial real estate could be a problem with this. And I sometimes I look at I get bombarded with all these emails from all these different job sites like Indeed and this and that. And so every now and then I look at them and it's like, everything is hybrid or work from home. There's very few places that are like, all right, well, you got to be on site. And I guess some people say, well, when you're on site, you're more productive. But other people might say, well, you know what? Guess what? If everyone works from home, we don't need to rent an office. So I guess it could go both ways. The other thing, too, is if you're someone who commutes an hour each way, I mean, that's 2 hours of commuting. So if you're working from home, that's an extra 2 hours you have to be productive. Because, if you're taking the train, you can do work, but if you're driving, you can't.
I think it's just like anything, Mark. If people have the drive and the ambition to do the job that they're supposed to do and want to succeed, then they'll go home and they'll do their remote job to the best that they would do, just like when they were in the office. It's the lazy people that will scam out that they need to come to work. But there's some people that can do remote work.
Yeah, well, it was hard here for me because I got 2 kids that were friggin' kind of going wild, but they'll be off to college in another month, so it's gonna be nice and quiet around here. I don't know, man. I don't know how to react. I guess at first I'm gonna be sad that they're gone, but I guess it's the what's it called, the empty nest syndrome.
Yeah, well, they have to fly. You have to let them loose. I mean, I've got 4, and 3 of them don't live with me anymore.
Yeah, it's like the mother bird pushes the little bird out of the nest when it's time for them to go.
Yeah, they got to go out and feel the world. You can't protect them forever, and they got to get hurt, and they got to get ripped off, and they got to have all that crap happen to them so that they become stronger, better human beings.
All right, so let's see here. Again, I think that I don't think this crypto thing is done. I think there's going to be more to come in terms of fraud and fake companies. So let's see this. When crypto company Binance launched its US exchange, almost $70,000 changed hands in the first hour, blah, blah, blah. The demand didn't come from internal traders. Oh, how interesting.
That's cool, Maddie.
Yeah, I remember when my kids first got on the bus, man, when they were in kindergarten, like you put them on the bus and you watch the bus drive away. It's like all the parents are like got tears coming out of their eyes. All right, so let's see. This SEC sued Binance, blah, blah, blah. All right, well, just something else we got to keep an eye on here. Coinbase settled. So let's look at Carvana because I know a lot of our people made some serious coin on this one last week. What the heck is this?
It's the deep state coming after you, Mark, because you're talking too much about Joe.
What a piece of garbage. So serious. Now look at this. This continues to go lower. Yeah, I've read extensively about our country's history, and there's just nothing that's even close. There's been corruption, like in the secretary's offices where the president didn't know, like when Grant was president. But this is like, the money's going right to the guy, and he's taking bribes. And here's why he's really a piece of garbage, because he could have just went off into the good night and we wouldn't even be talking about him now, but he thought to himself, you know what? I got all this garbage in my past. There's a good chance it might come out, but I don't care. I don't care what it's going to do to the country. It's my turn to be president. I've been waiting for 50 years. It's my turn, and I'm going to do it. My brother thinks that, Biden assumed he would never be president, so he just figured, let me cash in while I can. But then the opportunity came along where it's like, hey, you can actually be president. And he's like, well, guess what? I'm going to. It's hubris, man. It's just pure hubris. He's gotten away with this stuff for so long that, but he's done now. He's got to be, because it's getting to the point now where even the Democrats can't ignore it. And once Barry decides he wants him to go, that's it. It's over.
Yeah, I think that the corruption that he has, I mean, look, Mark, it's his Justice Department. So all he has to do is sign up a paper and say, hey, Merritt, you're going to wait and you're going to go ahead and charge me and everybody in my family. And you're going to do this before my presidency's over. And he's going to have the paperwork pardoned. So when he takes his 25th, that's how they're going to get him to resign, is to pardon him and his family and let him walk away with the millions that they've stolen from us and from the rest of the world and all the atrocities that have happened underneath his watch. He's an absolute piece of shit.
He could be, it could be like the Saturday Night Massacre, like that Nixon did, where Nixon just like fired his entire cabinet and tried to blame everything on them.
Yeah, but luckily history came back and caught Nixon. Just like history's come back.
But here's the difference. Nixon was smart, and Biden's not.
Well, yeah, Nixon was working it. He really thought he had something going on, but he just picked some stupid people to help him.
Well, he had everything on tape too. He could have destroyed all the tapes, and he decided to tape himself for posterity, and that's where they got, that was the smoking gun, is when they heard him on tape, and he handed over the tapes, but there was all these like places where that they had blacked things out or erased them. But yeah, had he not had those tapes, they never would have had a smoking gun, and he probably never would have had to resign. But anyway, all right. So this Carvana came out last week, and this thing blasted up because we got this news, and I said, man, this news is bogus, right? And sure enough, look what's happened. We're down $10 since then. And the news was that their creditors were reworked out a deal with them where they would have to pay back less money, or I don't know if it was less percentage or less money or whatever. But that begs the question, right? Like, why would they be willing to do that? Why, if someone owes you $100 and they come to you and they say, hey, listen, I'm not going to pay the 100, I'm going to pay you 90. You start thinking, well, man, I better take the 90 because maybe this dude is like on his way to go into bankruptcy. So it's almost like these buyers or these lenders, got together and said, hey, if we hold these guys' feet to the fire and look at that, Piper Sandler just issued a warning on Carvana stock. Yeah, if they might have thought like, all right, well, listen, if we make these guys pay us back everything that they owe us, maybe they go out of business, so it's like, we better cut them a break. So I thought that the news was not good. And sure enough, now here we are 3 days later, and the market sees that, and we're down another percent in the pre-market. Now, if I was short this, I would be thinking about covering down around 40, because that was this little resistance level. And remember, what we've seen, levels that were resistance tend to turn into support. And we could see that here. Resistance here became support here. So I think this reversal has a little bit of a ways to go. And I mean, anytime you get a really big move lower, and let's see. So we're down 17% in 3 days. Anytime you get a big move like that and you don't get any kind of a bounce back, that's what we call action, right? And you would figure after this kind of a move lower, there'd be some kind of like bottom feeders coming in and we'd get some kind of a bounce, but we haven't. So that's tells me that there's a good chance that the sellers are still in charge and they're going to push this thing even lower. So I think we got some more downside there. Oh, it's the Celsius CEO arrested. This has to be old. July 13th. Oh, it's not that old. Celsius. Oh, yeah. All right. We went over this. Charged with defrauding the collapsed crypto exchange's customers. This is kind of the ironic thing about crypto is that all the people that were in crypto, let's call them enthusiasts, were just like, oh, it's so great because the government doesn't regulate it. Well, guess what? When things don't get regulated, then things like this happen. You need some kind of regulation.
Yeah, you always need some oversight, but you just don't need a heavy-handed government.
Yeah, like back in the New Deal, when they put in all these laws and rules, people were saying, oh, it's the end of the exchanges. But, if people are confident that they're not going to get ripped off, then that, that's good. So, all right, let's see. IPO market is awakening. Farmers work to cool livestock and chickens in sweltering conditions. Wow. Yeah, it's been pretty crazy, man.
That's what we need is more dead
So,
chickens. We've lost a lot of chickens this year, a lot of livestock, period.
and why is that? Because of the heat?
No, it's been, I don't know. You've seen a lot of processing plants burning down feedlots, having animals die in it from poisoned water and stuff like that. I don't know whether it's ecoterrorism or anything like that, but there's tons of information out there on it.
Wow. Yeah, it's not good, man. Not good. And then you got the UFOs that are abducting those aliens as well, or abducting those cows as well.
Well, I don't know all about that,
Yeah.
Mark, but I mean, honestly, look, I think I've seen the alien. I haven't seen an alien, but I've seen UFOs. I ain't gonna lie to you. Me and my kid both saw one that looked like looked like a laundry basket. Didn't have any lights or anything. It just hovering. It went across the top of the road and across the field in front of us, and it was like, wow. We both got out of the car and looked at it, just like dumbfounded. But didn't see any lights. Didn't see any aliens pop out of it. With a sign which way to Albuquerque or anything like that. But
Well, I don't doubt it, man. If this was 10 years ago, I would have said you're crazy. But, I mean, I watch paranormal clown on tape enough to know that there's some crazy stuff going on. And even, even Obama himself said that there's stuff flying around that we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty profound statement. And no one really you thought that, if the president of the United States comes out and says there's stuff flying around and we don't know what it is, you would think people would go into a panic. But
and I'm not sure. I'm thinking that's pretty much why I think he's chosen the degree in school that he's gone into, the astrophysics, is because of that. He's always been deadly interested in it since then.
Really? Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, Einstein says nothing can go faster than the speed of light. So if they are from other planets, they're like so far ahead of us. It's almost inconceivable.
Or different dimensions. You never know. I mean, honestly, we're small minded compared to what the rest of I mean, if you're looking into the solar system and you're looking billions and billions and billions of years away, then you've got life on those planets that has far exceeded the mind capacity of ours. So, there's no telling what's out there. It's going to be interesting for the next generations of ours to be able to meet them, see them, travel to the stars. It's going to be wild.
Unless they want to come here and eat us, like in the.
You know what? If they do, it's no different than us eating cows or us eating pigs. The strong survive. I know that's kind of a weird way to think about it, but it's the truth. I mean,
well, or they can enslave you and put you in some dilithium crystal mine, some far reach of the.
You never know.
Of the universe.
You never know. All of that could happen.
Well, I don't know, dude. I think if there's other life, it could be so different from what we think. We might not even recognize it. Or they could be so big, they could be the size of Jupiter, or they could be so small, maybe we don't even see them. But it does seem, you would think if they got that much technology that, the limits of what they can find from probing women from trailer parks would probably have exhausted itself by now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right? It's like you can fly across the universe and go faster than the speed of light. How many women?
How many women would you meet? I don't know, Mark.
How many people do you need to anally probe? Well,
all right.
Whatever, man. All right, so let's see what else is going on here. I'll go over to Market Watch. I kind of enjoy this site sometimes. Market Watch. Oh, we got here. Financial markets are upside down, says Morgan Stanley. Yeah, Morgan Stanley, they seem to always be bearish. Let's see what these guys are saying now. Morgan Stanley, blah, blah, blah. The reweighting. Oh, yeah. Okay. So they did the reweighting of the index. I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm going to have to look into that because I'm not sure how they did it. They reweighted the NASDAQ 100. And that's because just a couple companies got so big that they were dominating it. But they do it by market cap. So I don't know what's going on. I'm going to have to look into it. I just out of really my own curiosity. In terms of trading, I don't think it's really going to make a difference for people that are trading the Qs. But it
You
is
know,
good to know.
just to bring up a memer, I saw this morning that they passed the merger for DWAC. So DWAC was up like 40% this morning or last night at 1 o'clock.
Where is it?
Truth Social. Okay, so it was down to 12. So a jump to 28 last night.
No, this would be from Friday.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's down a little bit in the pre-market.
Yeah, well, it doesn't do much for social media. I mean, I don't see a lot of people using it anymore, or even people talking about it, which kind of is the whole point of most social media, I would think.
Yeah. All right, Zuckerberg, confident, blah, blah. Hopefully him and Elon Musk will go into the steel cage. Twitter logo is changing to an X. Wow. That's pretty interesting. I wonder why.
He says he likes the letter X.
All right, so this is something to pay attention to here. Is that I think this UPS strike. UPS I saw delivers a quarter of the packages that are whatever delivered. So if these guys go on strike, that's going to have a huge effect. And also Yellow, the other truck, smaller company, they're on strike because apparently they missed a couple of their pension payments. And that's going to start happening more and more as history goes on here. These people that think they got these pensions are going to find out that they're not going to get them. Because if you work for a municipality and you retire and then that municipality goes bankrupt, well, then they don't have to pay you your pension. So, yeah, because, we know a guy who worked for the Long Island Railroad, and he retired, and he's been retired now for like 20 years. He gets the same amount of money in his pension that he got when he was working. I don't think he makes millions, but he probably makes a couple $100,000 a year. And how long can that be sustainable? Because you got all these people retiring, and when they first came up with all this stuff, a long time ago, pensions and people dropped dead when they were like in their 50s. Now it's like, people live to be in their 90s and hundreds. So we're going to be hearing more of that. Yellow averted the strike. Let's see. Yellow. I haven't heard anything further on them. They're public, right? Yellow Corporation. Well, their stock hasn't done very well. Let's see. U.S. trucking firms fall as Yellow narrowly averts strike. Pushback strike threat at trucker Yellow. All right.
Isn't that bullish for Yellow if the rest of them are fixing to strike?
What's that?
Isn't that bullish for Yellow if the rest of them are going to strike?
One would think so, but I'm not really sure how it works. Like maybe, there's multiple people involved in a delivery. Let's just see what we say here. So these guys averted a strike, but I don't think it's over, right? I mean, if they miss a pension payment, what's going to be going on in 2 years or 3 years? I mean, the government will have to come in and bail them out.
Absolutely. That's what we always do.
Okay, so they averted a strike. Competitors are expected to cherry pick Yellow customers. Well, you know what? I don't know much about labor relations, but I know stock prices, and this does not look like the stock of a healthy company. I mean, gosh, look at that. It was at 36, and now it's down to $1. So if this gets to below $1, then there's issues there because certain exchanges won't let it trade if it's less than $1. And oh, look at that. It was a penny stock. You got down to like 70 cents. Losing customers, the steep strikes. Well, anyway, I think there's trouble in the industry. So I'm going to have to look into this to see how they got out of this, where they got the money from to pay their pensions. See if the government bailed them out.
Maddie's got a question. He says, so Maddie's got a question here for you, Mark. Put it on the screen.
UPS would go down if there's a strike. I mean, I would think so, if depending on how long it is. Because if the drivers are on strike, they're not going to be able to make any money.
Yeah, if they can't deliver packages, and then they're going to have to pay more to the drivers. And employment is the most aggressive cost to a business. Period. The employee.
Let's see. I mean, the stock has been holding up pretty well. So they're going to have a rally. Oh, wait, that was a few days ago. Let's see if anything is on here. The most talked about stocks are AMC, AMD, UPS. Yeah, I mean, I would think it's going to go down. I don't know by how much or how long it'll be. All right, let me just take a look at AMC here, and then I got to get going. AMC. These meme stocks are kind of fun, right? Because it's like they always, whatever news comes out, it's always like they're wrong, and it always goes the opposite way later on. So it's up to 595 this morning. So we're trading up around here. Now look at this. This is kind of interesting. See, look where we're stalling out, right? Right around the level that was resistance before. AMC records busiest weekend because of Barbie and Oppenheimer. Well, I'm not going to see Barbie, but I would like to see the Oppenheimer movie. AMC files revised stock conversion plan. Let's see what that's all about. Stock conversion. Wow. The company must be in a position to raise equity capital or the risk materially increases of AMC conceivably running out of cash in 24 or 25. All right, so this is trading up, but this sounds to me like it's bad news. Chief executive said the company has filed a modified petition for a stock conversion plan. The judge rejected the settlement that would provide AMC common stock owners with shares worth about $129 billion because it would also settle potential claims by preferred shareholders. Yeah, so I don't know what's going on here. It sounds like they're just trying to create shares out of thin air. That's not going to be a good thing. All right, everybody, I'm going to get going, but I will see you all tomorrow morning. And thanks, and I hope you all have a good day. And just remember, just to recap, because of our large amounts of bullishness, I think that's going to make the market go lower.
Hey guys, and one more thing: when you go to bed tonight, Joe Biden's still going to be the most corrupt president in the history of America.
Yeah, even more so, because who knows what today will bring.
Absolutely, he could do a whole lot of shit today.
Okay, everyone, thanks a lot.